Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. COVID-19 has put a halt on the traditional ways we have done things, and recruitment of early talent is no exception. Joining me to discuss democratizing access to opportunity for all students is Garrett Lord, CEO of Handshake. Garrett, it's great to see you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Explain to us what early talent is and what challenges they face.
So early talent, kind of as we think about our category, is any college student or recent graduate trying to find an internship, their first full-time job, or maybe navigate those kind of challenging and uncertain times 12 to 18 months after graduation. If we think about the challenges that it has historically faced this kind of group of young users, the college job search process, I don't know if you remember, Jill, but pretty scary. When you're graduating from college, your major doesn't necessarily map to your career, and you're leaning on your family network or what school you go to. And we really thought that was extremely unfair. I mean, the socioeconomic status of your family or the school you go to really was a huge predictor in positive outcomes after college. So what Handshake's mission is really democratizing access to opportunity, democratizing access to information, and helping students make great decisions. So today, Handshake is the #1 place that college students are finding internships and jobs. There's 7 million students, 500,000 plus companies recruiting those 7 million students. And then we partner with 1,100 wonderful universities who are trying to help their students navigate this process of career exploration and ultimately finding meaningful work.
Right, and of course, 2020, it's unprecedented like everything else. So it's unlike the recovery from other economic downturns. Chief human resource officers are being forced to reinvent their hiring machine, shifting their efforts fully virtual for the first time in order to reach that diverse pool of talent. Also, the onboarding process is so different now too. So how are the CHROs handling this?
Yeah, so I mean, the pandemic really flipped everyone's model. I mean, historically, the way that most large companies were hiring is they were actually sending employees to career fairs, kind of sitting at career fair booths, and then hoping that their kind of consumer brand would drive student awareness. So if you're Whirlpool, for example, you're trying to hire computer science graduates. But oftentimes, many computer science graduates don't understand that Whirlpool's trying to build digital washing machines and digital refrigerators, and that there's great opportunities in some of their unique divisions over at these companies. And so historically, companies spent about $8 billion trying to recruit college students in this very fragmented ecosystem where they couldn't connect with talent nationwide. And so fast forward to the pandemic, universities, students, and employers were really trying to figure out, what do we do in a world where we can't travel, we can't go to campus? And so over the last 6 months, we've built an end-to-end kind of virtual recruiting platform that is now on track to host over 3,000 virtual career fairs at over 650 universities in the country. We've seen over 30,000 employers engage at these 3,000 plus career fairs that we've hosted. And really what it's doing is creating a lot more fairness in the ecosystem, because companies are casting a wider net. They're able to facilitate rich in-person kind of virtual-like interactions through ambassador video coffee chats, which is a fun feature where a young employee can actually have a 10-minute chat with a prospective candidate. And so we're seeing companies basically reduce their cost per hire, recruit at a more inclusive base of universities across the country, and save time, save money, and finding great candidates, needles in the haystack at hundreds and hundreds of universities across the country, as opposed to what they used to do, sitting at 10 or 15 career fairs and hoping the right students walked up.
Right. And Garrett, that's one of the silver linings to COVID-19 and what we've learned with operating virtually and the technology that enables us to do so, because it democratizes access, as you had mentioned before. It also allows employers to build a more diverse and inclusive workforce, which is really important, especially for younger folks coming out of college, where they're very values-based, very demand driven by what's important to their values and so forth. So it's a win-win for everyone. So let's dive deeper a little bit about Handshake. First, I want to understand what the platform allows employers to do, and then let's shift gears and understand what kind of resources are available for the students on Handshake.
Great. So maybe we'll just use a customer story. I think that's a wonderful way to describe the employer value. So we'll take an employer like General Motors. They historically were going to 20 to 30 individual campuses, kind of recruiting at each campus. And, we're not seeing the right representation goals. They want, I mean, Mary all the way up to the top, the CEO, they want to see more women. They want to see more Black students. They want to see more Latinx students. They believe that smart college students are at every university in the country. And so they've actually been one of the most innovative, most forward-thinking companies in the country, where they actually been recruiting completely virtually, almost in a kind of pandemic-proof way for the last 2 years. And what they see is they've seen record highs in terms of underrepresented candidates joining General Motors in all types of functions across the organization. They've lowered their cost per hire by half. So they're, in terms of the fully burdened cost to hire a candidate, and they're hiring wonderful, brilliant, diverse candidates from hundreds and hundreds of universities across the country. And the way they did that was just kind of repurposing the old model. I mean, so much has changed with the evolution of the internet and moving things from offline to online, but college recruiting hadn't really changed much prior to Handshake. It was still the rigmarole of career fairs and hoping the right kids walk up. So that's an example of a company outcome. And we've seen now, many Fortune 100 companies basically being forced into this shift of what General Motors has been doing right for the last 2 years, because they couldn't go to campus, right? And so that's accelerated our business in a demonstrable way. I mean, we've doubled revenue this year and are seeing some huge tailwinds behind this category.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, the more diverse and inclusive your workforce is, that drives more innovation at the end of the day. So again, that goes back to it's a good thing for employees and of course employers' bottom line. So I was actually taking a look at the website, and it really is quite comprehensive. There are a lot of tools out there for students to access as well. It's not just simply matching job to potential employee.
Yeah, I mean, to your point around the student experience, the way you could think about it is, we're like a no network required site. LinkedIn's all about your history, and Handshake's a lot about your future, which is, you're defining on the platform. So for students, they're building rich profiles, talking about classes, experience, extracurricular activities. They're following companies. We crossed 1 million messages a month about a couple months back, where companies are actually recruiting the students. And so this generates this huge, huge penetration rate with college students across the country, because students are like missing out if they're not in Handshake. The upperclassmen are telling the underclassmen, and it's really become a verb. I mean, we're one of these huge consumer networks that, unless you're in college, you haven't heard of, but pretty much every college student's heard of Handshake, and many of them are on it.
All right, Garrett, and to wrap up here, how is Handshake expanding to further democratize access to opportunity for all students? What's new for 2021 and beyond?
So we think these virtual recruiting headwinds behind companies, I mean, we're proving that you can have better outcomes, hire more diverse talent who are excited and engaged to be at your company at a lower cost per hire in a completely virtual way. And so I think what's coming for us is deepening the investment with our university partners and our employer partners to build great video tools to help them empower and connect with the right students. And then beyond that, I think it's also helping the employers find the right students. So it's looking beyond major, looking beyond GPA, and looking at skills and competencies, and helping employers really matchmake and find the right college students, regardless of what school you go to, regardless of what your parents do. So that's really the future for us.
That's awesome. Lots of tailwinds at your back for sure. Garrett, it was great to have you with us on Trade Talks. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Jill.
You got it. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.